Welcome to Buckeyes Tomorrow Morning for Sunday, March 30th. I'm your host, Tom Orr. The Texas game in 153 days, the game against Michigan in 244 days. If you're planning your next event, make it unforgettable with Grateful Griddle, Columbus's favorite food truck, serving up smash burgers, gourmet sandwiches, and good vibes. Book your catering today at GratefulGriddleOH.com. Today's show, you're going to get to hear a bunch from Matt Patricia. We had a chance to talk to him earlier last week, and it was really a great interview session. I don't know if he's just turning on the charm or if this is how he's going to be all the time, but man, there were so many good, deep, thoughtful answers from Matt Patricia. I thought we got to do a show with just his stuff, because there was a lot of really good stuff, and then we've just had a bunch of stuff happening all week. So we're getting to it now. Better late than never. So one of the first people Matt Patricia talked about when he got to Columbus was CJ Hicks. So what makes CJ Hicks' skill set someone that he was so excited to work with?
He's a tremendous guy, just the energy and the excitement, and he's always trying to please, he's really eager to learn everything. Skill set wise, he's really unique, like he can play off the ball, he can play on the ball. He does a good job of transitioning his vision. Sometimes when you go behind the line of scrimmage, you got to adjust your vision, but he does that very well. And then I would say his explosive power. When you watch him, obviously pass rush, and he can have some great skill pass rushing on the edge, but even in the run game, just that explosive pop that he can have. Some of the other type of like hybrid, like outside linebacker defensive ends that I've coached in the past, similar type of skill set, similar type of body frame, things like that. And that's good, because you can use them in unique ways and in different ways, and hopefully cause the offense a little bit of, confusion when you do that with those guys. So I see a lot of similarities.
This is a really interesting question. This is something that goes back to something Kerry Combs talked about after being in the NFL and then sort of having to adjust to evaluating 14-year-olds or 15-year-olds or 16-year-olds in high school recruiting after having worked with 30-year-old grown men in the NFL. So we know with Matt Patricia's history in the NFL, how do you avoid being too critical and readjust your expectations when you're evaluating high school kids instead of 30-year-old NFL veterans?
When we are at that other level, we are very critical of all of it, because there's enough body of work. You can go through and dive in not only the skill set, but then, you're trying to look at football intelligence and what they've learned and how they've grown and matured. I think looking at younger players and younger kids now, you're really just looking at what are the physical attributes that they have, and then just understand the fact that, you have to teach them a lot of the game too, which is fine, and you're going to teach them different things that you want them to do. So just really looking at, some of the raw talent, I think has been pretty awesome, and obviously really just for myself, it's been a while since I've watched that level of football, just how good it's gotten. You have a vision of what it looked like 25 years ago. And I know we're all kind of, we live our glory days back then too, but the kids are way better now than we ever were. So it's cool to kind of watch them all that. And you're trying to really project, what do you see them being able to do, framework, how big are they going to get? Sometimes they're actually going to increase their speed, their strength, their power, their explosiveness. I always like to look at little things, whether it's knee bend or ankle flex, that's a big one too. Just how flexible guys' ankles are, their ability to bend, keep their knees over the toes, move, break, transition, hip fluidity, back and forth. So just really try to look at the raw talent of it. And then, you can coach the other things as far as, the finish, like how are they finishing on the plays, whether it's a DB through the pocket, ball skills. Some guys are more natural when they go up and play the ball in space. So just trying to evaluate that and then, figure out where they're going to go as they do mature and get older and figure out the positions that they then can help you with.
One of the young Buckeyes who has a chance to potentially earn a much bigger role this season is Malik Hartford. He's one of the safeties, obviously, and he's been working with the ones some during the chances we've had to see that during the practice windows we've gotten to watch so far this spring. So what has Matt Patricia seen out of Malik Hartford so far this spring?
I think he's had a great spring. Really go back to the weight room. And what was great was when I came in, I had an opportunity to watch him work with Coach Mick and his program and how they work. So I'm really looking at their body movement. How do they move? How are their hips? And then obviously we know, position in the back end. What do we think he can do? And how do we think he would be going backwards in some situations and things like that. So I think he's done a really good job of being consistent every day, training his body. He's improved a lot. His movement has improved. His strength has improved. And, he's just a student of the game. He's in here all the time studying and learning. I really like right now, I think that there is some flexibility for him to be able to play down, play back, has great range kind of in that back end too, which is really good. And now just maybe a little bit of eye control and teaching where he's reading and kind of being able to see through the uncovered lineman back into the quarterback and kind of have maybe a little bit of a football instincts and be able to jump, some of the things that he sees back there to, go play those plays faster. But his work and his consistency with the way that he approaches it, it's really been awesome. Like he's done a great job.
One of the areas where there's been a ton of questions about this year's Ohio State team is the depth on the defensive line. Feels like they feel pretty good about the starting four, and after that, well, some question marks at least. So when you're figuring out who can play where and how many guys you have and, is it enough for a 16-game season? How do you evaluate that? Shuffling guys between positions, who can play where, all that kind of stuff. How do you evaluate that to know whether you really have enough depth to get through a full 16 potentially game season?
Yeah. That's a good question too, with just obviously my newness to the, the college schedule, but, I'm used to kind of those 16 game seasons, in the longer season. So I do think that depth is critical and just finding out exactly what roles those guys can play within the defensive line. So having some flexibility to be able to move guys around. And even when another guy comes in, understanding what his skill set is, and maybe that changes something structurally, that you do to be able to try to fit what his skill set is a little bit better so that you can pull off some of those reps off the other guys to, have better longevity through the season. So that I think that's really important. I think it's important early, I think it's important now too, to see that what they can do so we can figure out what they do well and then make sure they're in those positions. I think you can have depth, but sometimes if you get guys out of position, they might be a good player, but if they're not in the right position, then it doesn't look as good. And I think that's our job as coaches to try to figure that out exactly what that is so that when we do get in midway through the season and we need different guys in different spots, we're like, no, remember this guy is really good here. Let's structurally maybe do this instead this week or, for this game or whatever it might be so that we do continually have that depth.
Matt Patricia has spent the last 20 or so years coaching in the NFL. So now what's that transition now been back to the college level and to Ohio State? What has that been like? And what has he been doing to sort of get up to speed with life as a college coach?
It's obviously awesome just to be able to come here. I have such respect for Ohio State and obviously a great year last year and Coach Day and the program and the culture that he's built. I'm a big fan, been a big fan for a long time. We come here all the time when you're at the next level and you're grabbing a lot of really good players out of this school. So you're very familiar with that. I think for me, I'm just, like I said, maybe before, I'm just excited, I just want to teach and I want to mentor, but really right now I've got to learn, I got to listen, I've got to learn, I got to try to, understand what all the great coaches that are here, what they're doing fundamentally, and then things that we did last year structurally that are really good and, implement all that as we go forward and just try to do the best job I can to teach. I think that's my job right now is that with what we're doing and when I see it, be able to teach it and get it across to the players and the coaches. But, right now I feel like I'm the student, I'm just kind of learning and trying to take in as much as I can. And then really trying to learn the kids, trying to learn, their backgrounds and where they're from and what do they want? I think that's really important, so that I can be that mentor and that teacher and help them, along whatever path that is for them, and constantly try to encourage them to, to do all that stuff that they have to do every day and be consistent with it.
One of the big adjustments from the NFL to college is now, as a college coach, you got to recruit. So what has recruiting been like so far now that they've sort of started to not only have conversations with guys, but have guys visiting, guys on campus, talking to people? Has that been a big adjustment for Matt Patricia?
Yeah, it's been a little while for me on that deal. So it's really cool. The whole thing is completely changed, right? I think there's so much coming at these guys so fast. I kind of feel for them sometimes, and I think for me, my approach is just I'm trying to be as direct as I can and as honest with them as I can and, just help them evaluate what I see and how do they get better. And then, visions for us going forward and how we would be able to implement that. But I really do enjoy sitting down, right now in the initial phases. I think a lot of them, because they have been, they've been recruited by Ohio State for a while. So a lot of that process is just getting to know my story a little bit and getting to know me. But at the same time, understanding and learning the player and learning the kid and what he's been through and what, kind of his journey a little bit is important, in the family and all of that. And it's just kind of building that relationship. I think that's the coolest part right now. And, again, like college is great, mentoring young men, but then to, then project that into the high school level. Like I said, my parents were teachers, and my dad, he did that a lot too. So just trying to keep his voice in my head a little bit, and understanding, these are young kids, and really, again, like I said, there's just a lot coming at them, I think. So listening is really important, and then, just building that relationship with them.
This was one of the questions that I think everyone sort of had when they heard that longtime NFL coach Matt Patricia was coming to Ohio State. So you're jumping from the NFL to college. I think it would be very natural for people to see that as a little bit of a step down. So why was that a move that was appealing to him?
I'm very blessed for my NFL career. I was really, really lucky. I've coached great players. I had a lot of fun, but I think, like I mentioned before, I think I started off as a college coach. I think that was where people really impacted me as a young man. And I think as a coach, we want to teach, we want to mentor, and that's what we want to do. And, this is a great opportunity for me to get back to that. I think it's really important right now just to, teach the game. And I know I can help them. I know I can help the kids. And if they want to go to the next level, I can give them a lot of good advice. But, it's Ohio State. This is the top. So, I'm pretty lucky to be here. And, again, it's a great game. The kids are great. So I think of it as just a great opportunity to go coach. And that's really what I want to do.
Matt Patricia, of course, won 3 Super Bowls as an assistant under Bill Belichick with the New England Patriots. So he's familiar with what it takes to deal with the aftermath of winning a championship and then having to turn around and then start preparing for the next season with the Patriots in that case, and then in this case, with the Buckeyes. So what has he learned from doing that before? Now, I thought this was a great question and an even better answer.
I would say in my previous experience, I think one of the biggest things to try to always get everybody to understand is the urgency, which you need to come back at. And we would always say it, we're just behind. We're behind everybody else. Everybody else got a jump start. Everybody's a little bit further ahead, and just try to create that urgency of what's happening right now for, our team. Like, we've got to really, be intentional about everything we do. We've got to have great urgency. We've got to rest. We got to recover. We got to do everything from, the body, but just that mindset of like, it's going to happen fast. Like, the off season is going to be shorter. We're going to be back in it before you know it. And, we can't make up that time. So how do we, if we have the mentality a little bit like we're behind everybody else, how do we catch up? What do we do? And that's that consistency and that urgency, I think, is a big part of it. And, I always tell the guys too, when you reach the top of that mountain, and this, Ohio State's always had a big target, but like there's a huge target on who you are. And everybody now is going to spend the offseason studying every facet of what you do. So you have 6 months, that team is going to be studying you during the offseason. So even if you don't play that team till middle of the season, okay, we've got 4 days to get ready for them. They've spent 6 months getting ready for us. So that urgency has to go up to understand, like, we've got to catch up to where they are kind of in the reverse study.
Patricia has talked about the defense being multiple and having guys that can do different stuff and different answers for different challenges that the opposing offense might be able to pose. So how important is the nickel position in that? And how does he see guys maybe fitting in together there in that spot?
I think multiplicity comes in a couple of different ways. Nickel is huge, big nickel. If you have some of those body types, safety position in my past, has always been one of those positions that's been fun to kind of move around and put in different spots, especially when you have guys with a big skill range that play that position, because I think it makes it really hard for the offense. Kind of what exactly is the defense in right now and what can they do out of it. So I do like the flexibility of the nickel and the big nickel position. I think the linebackers are really, critical in that too. Guys that can play on the ball, off the ball, and get into different structures that way is fun, to kind of put pressure on the offense. I think, here, the defensive backs just specifically, you're talking about the nickel, like it's a great room. There's a lot of depth there. So in that situation, I'm like, okay, let's get as many guys as we can in different roles to be able to go out there and play and keep it moving on the offense, try to make them figure out like, hey, somebody else is coming in. Is this a different package? Is it a different structure? Like, is this going to be something new? I'm not really sure what this looks like, and hopefully we stay ahead of them before they figure it out. But I think the room's great. Tim, they do a great job. Matt, they do a great job back there of training those guys and bringing them in. And, they're big, they're long, they can run. I mean, if you like defensive football, those guys are great to watch back there. It's fun.
The Buckeyes return just 3 starters on the defense, so they're not quite starting from scratch, but they're closer to scratch than they were last year for sure. So there's still a lot of talent on that defense. So does Matt Patricia have any sense yet for what this defense could be this year?
Man, I would hate to just do that too early because wasn't here last year for that, and I have great players that are obviously headed to the next level. But we have great young men here right now, and what I can speak on is just the work ethic, the drive, the consistency to come in every day and try to get better. That's phenomenal. Like these guys are they're working their butts off right now to try to get out there and be successful and be consistent and keep the standard and all of that. So. The on-field performance, sometimes I got to wait right now because I didn't really see it last year until we get to the games. But as far as the work ethic and the toughness and the mental part of it, it's really impressive, really impressive.
Well, I hope you guys enjoyed that. I know I really, really enjoyed listening to him talk about a lot of that stuff. That there were some really interesting answers, some different perspectives. I think Matt Patricia is, making an early run at being one of those assistant coaches that we really kind of our eyes light up a little bit when we see him on the schedule, get a chance to talk to him. So hopefully you guys enjoyed that, and hopefully you guys are enjoying being members at BuckeyeHuddle.com. And if you're not, well, what are you waiting for? Just $4.99 for your first month. Tony, Kevin, and I covering the team there. Mark covering recruiting. Got our whole team of X's and O's gurus there, all to make you a smarter football fan. That is all at BuckeyeHuddle.com. That'll do it for today. Thank you guys all for joining us. Have a great day. We'll talk to you tomorrow.